Who are ya?
It's the Toronto Till I Die pre-recorded match preview.
Hello and welcome back to Who Are Ya, the Toronto FC fan show previewing TFC's upcoming opponent. We're bringing on fellow bloggers, podcast hosts, and journalists from our friends around the league to provide perspectives on our opponents. I'm Mike Newell, and with me, my TTID co-host Jeffrey P. Nesker. Jeff, how you doing, man?
Salut. I'm doing all right. This weather is making me mental. Hopefully we get a season eventually. It'd be nice as opposed to whatever this is.
At least we don't have a home game this week. Like a home game in this again. I would not look forward to that. But this Saturday, your Reds are going to be taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps in a tough away match at B.C. Place, and an away fixture that hasn't always been friendly to John Herdman's side. With the last game in Vancouver ending in a 1-0 win for the Whitecaps back in 2022, courtesy of a controversial goal by former Red and now retired Whitecaps staff member Tosaint Ricketts. Vancouver come into this one second in the West, sporting a 3-1-1 record, which has them second in the West behind L.A Galaxy. Ryan Raposo scoring a late winner Saturday night to seal a 3-2 thrilling win against Cascadia rivals Portland at B.C Place. Here to talk about the Caps start to the season and what TFC can expect to see from them and the reigning Voyageurs Cup holders is Asa Rehman, sport anchor at Global TV Vancouver and the Whitecaps play-by-play man at AM 730 Traffic. Asa, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, doing great. Looking forward to this match. And the rivalry pretty rich right now. So, yeah, it's a good time for these two teams to meet. Looking forward to it at B.C. Place.
Absolutely.
Can I be honest? There was a typo on our rundown that I was kind of hoping Mike Newell didn't remember, because he actually wrote out, thanks for joining and welcome to Why Are You? And I didn't correct it because I was hoping he would trip over that. And then I was going to laugh. But you're right. He's a pro. He's a pro, but I left that in there. Question: has Toss retired from all manner of Vancouver adjacent frippery, or is he now playing Fortnite for you guys? Like he was. Yeah. Like I'm not sure. I mean, all respect to Toss. That man's amazing.
He has a similar role, and then picked up the sticks, if you will, and is doing the gaming thing. He was honest. Actually, spoke to him early in the season. We had him as a pregame guest on AM 730, and he said it's a lot tougher than he anticipated. He's game for everything, as you might know. Like he's up for the challenge, and then he got into it, and I think it felt like you or I basically stepping on an MLS pitch. And it's like, I can't. No, this is a different animal. This is a different beast.
I mean, getting worked by a 13-year-old on an open chat mic is not fun for anybody. So more power to him. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Respect, Toss. You'll always have 2016 semifinal against.
That's just it. And I think he's got to lean into that, right? Like that's got to be part of his spitting game. Basically, if he's going at it, then he's got to start just bringing up this sort of stuff against his opponent.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we would take him right now. I mean, on our main show, I think you were saying, shout out how good he would fit into this TFC side right now. If we only had a guy like Toss on our team presently, maybe we would, score some goals or something. So
no, he could. Yeah, and the guy, I'm sure, can still bag goals. Like that's what he's been doing. So.
Just not digitally.
Exactly. Just a little bit harder
in the real life football,
the virtual world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we get into the match proper, I always ask this question of all our guests that come onto the show.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moon?
Yeah, exactly. But really, kind of. In terms of the fans' relationships with their clubs at the moment, and I'm interested to understand the fan relationship with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Obviously the South Side of Rain City Brigade. It seemed to be rocky for a few years, leading really up into the Vanni Sartini era. And then it seems to be rebounding with sort of obviously better results and winning the Canadian Championship a couple of times. How are you sort of seeing that play out in Vancouver right now?
Yeah, you're seeing, I guess, a closer knit community when it comes to the results, but and the attendance as well. 5 straight games, 22,000 plus. at BC Place. I talked to Ali Ahmed this week about just the attendance and feeling that energy. And yeah, they feel it. Like, because that's one thing that I was curious about, like, I don't know what 17,000 people cheering for you sounds like. And then I don't know if there's a difference between 17,000 and 22,000, like, but he was saying there is, like, and he feels the energy, he feels the vibe, he feels people standing for stretches of the match, especially in that late one where they had that 2-0 lead, saw it slip away against Portland, and then found the game winner through Ryan Raposo and that extra burst that they really needed down the stretch in that game. So it does seem to be playing a factor now. And you talk about the fan base, I think that they're coming around again, and it's a younger fan base too, which I think the club has been yearning for the last little while. It's just tapping into that younger market. So I think that you're seeing, a younger crowd kind of support this team. It is a 50-year anniversary for the club as well, and that's something we're trying to share a little bit on the pregame. So
point of order. Yeah, you can't claim the entirety of all soccer ever on the west coast of Canada as Whitecaps adjacent. Well, then fine, we get the Blizzard,
but it's a 50-year anniversary, right? So like 50 years ago, this thing happened. I try to like stick to the wording as well, right? So if you did something and then you'd celebrate the 50 years of it, right? It would, even though if it didn't exist for the entire time, is that?
I'll take it. I'll take it. Sure. Like,
if I speak, I'm going to get into trouble. So yes,
pro soccer has a long, rich history, right? Like pro soccer has a long, rich history.
What a rich mosaic we weave. Yes, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's my turn. Speaking of I love BC Place. I really, really do.
Okay.
And you obviously don't. So tell me why I'm wrong.
I obviously don't. Like, you just read.
Well, you kind of went, that's weird. Yeah. Tell me why I'm wrong, because
that's an interesting take. I think a lot of people that come to BC Place, that see BC Place, it looks great. The renovations are awesome. That happened for the Olympics in 2010. I think, like, visually it's awesome. I do see pictures from fans that are further away from the pitch that show, like, it's not built like the stadiums that go straight up. It's an old stadium that kind of built out. So there are sections when it's not packed and you're kind of elbow to elbow with everybody that, like, creates a great atmosphere, which they've had this season. There are times where, it can be just this giant echo chamber. If that makes sense. Like, it's just a big dome, right?
Right. Where they shot the MacGyver episode, which makes it legendary in my eyes, right? Like, no, that was the Big O. Sorry, now I'm messing them up.
But the same era, right? That
the
Big
same
O,
brutalist era. Yeah, I love it.
Concrete dome, right? And it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, you talk about the fan base sort of reattaching itself with the team and therefore building more atmosphere within BC Place. Obviously from afar, TFC fans have kind of looked at that team in different eras, right? Where sort of in the Carl Robinson era, where they were doing well and making the playoffs fairly consistently, you saw a pretty raucous atmosphere at BC Place. Then you saw some down years, lean years, and it felt, like you said, like a sort of a cavern. It feels like it's starting to pick up again. And that may be partly due to the head coach in Vanni Sartini. And he's a character, like, that's well documented. But how does the fan base view him? How do you, interviewing him and talking to him on a fairly regular basis, how has he taken to Vancouver, and how has Vancouver taken to him?
He's the most recognizable Vancouver Whitecap. He is the face of the franchise right now. Again, bringing it back to Ali, kind of talking about if he gets recognized in public, and it's Vanni, the one that's, like, most recognizable in public. He's the one that stands out. And then it's maybe Ryan Gauld, and then Ali maybe comes to mind. But it is Vanni Sartini, and it's his passion on the sidelines. It's his post-game interviews. It's everything. It's the entire package. And he also admitted he understands it. He recognizes he understands the impact he can have on the crowd in a game. And he also told me that he comes by it honestly. It is just who he is. Like, he realizes that it has an impact, but it is not contrived by any means. Like it's just how he is. And it has a massive impact on the crowd, the fan base here. And then it has an impact on the club as well. I think they feed off the energy. And when he was away for the 4 matches that he was suspended, tactically they looked all right, but they didn't have the same energy. And Mike D'Agostino did a great job, I think, filling in on the touchline. But you're missing something, right? And you go back to a game where you're tied and you need that go-ahead goal at home. I think he gives you that extra boost. Some of the changes he makes, maybe that talk about the pep talks going into a game, the pep talks maybe at halftime. There's probably a talk that goes on before guys coming into the game as well. That instruction, that message, that passion that he's able to push onto the pitch, it has an impact. You have to believe it does. So he is a big part of their success right now, and then the fanfare as well. He's a big reason a lot of people are showing up to watch this team.
Well said. And look, all the pundits were calling the Eastern Conference this season the gauntlet, but as the MLS season is sort of taking shape, the Western Conference is turning into pure chaos. It's a 2-part question. Do you feel Vancouver is a team of destiny this year? Because certainly last year you had the feeling that it was all coming together, and the Western Conference is not as easy as people were outlining it. I mean, you've got the Portland Timbits to contend with. So do you feel this is Vancouver's year for big things?
I think they've matured. I think last year they were saying the right things. And Vanni Sartini at the beginning of last year said it was going to be a special year, targeting Canadian Championship, targeting Cascadia Cup, got those ones. Just got into the playoffs, and then were ousted in the first round. So I think that there's sort of, a maturing that's happened. They're already in the top 4. I think kind of top 4 is what they want to be in the Western Conference, so that they can avoid that tough opening round opponent in the playoffs and kind of set themselves up for success. So I don't know if it's necessarily like a season of destiny, but I do think that they are more mature. We're dedicated to kind of getting these 3 points at home, winning on the road. 2 wins on the road already this season. Took them half the season to get that last year. So, they're just far more mature. Teams fairly similar. I don't think they got a lot better on the roster in the offseason. Krylak and Fafa Pico, Gorninga Utvik, just good signings, sure, but there wasn't any splash signings so far. So similar roster consistency, I think, helps, and then they've matured a bit as well. I think that's the biggest thing, just kind of having that core together, and understanding what they need to get it done, to get the 3 points at home, and not have another close one, pick up a draw type situation. They find a way to get it done. Raposo pokes that one over the line, 3 points, dusted, good. I think there's just a maturity about this group compared to last year.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely.
Let's get into the match a little bit in terms of, the danger men for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Obviously, most TFC fans are going to know about Brian White, and they're going to know about Ryan Gauld. And those are the 2 probably star names that are going to jump out on a team sheet on Saturday. So I kind of have a 2-part question as well. So my first is just Ryan Gauld. Yeah. What has he kind of meant to Vancouver, and
and can we have him?
And also, just in terms of his impact, like how really important is he to the team?
Oh, he's so important, critically important to the team. He doesn't come off the field, and he just keeps going as well the entire game. It's honestly him and Andres Cubas, just the engines of this team. One defensively, one on the attacking side. But he finally got his first goal last week, and I had to ask him going into that one, just kind of what he's going through, if he's frustrated at all, that he hasn't scored before the game. And I did that while I was with Global doing reporting shift, and it's kind of like, are you frustrated? You know, like obviously he's fine, he's good, like everything. But you have to kind of ask. You've gone through this starting stretch of the season. You haven't scored, don't have an assist. So it's so good to see him get that goal. But going forward, like he is the attack. He'll often play the pass before the assist, so he's involved that way. Doesn't maybe get the assist on the stat sheet, but so influential in the attack. The attack honestly goes through Ryan Gauld, and he's so good in the attacking third, whereas some players I think it can be inconsistent. Ali Ahmed, even, who's so much fun to watch, an electrifying player. Sometimes it doesn't come off. A lot of times it does. He has you at the edge of his seat, the second he touches the ball. But with Ryan Gauld, there's always a finish to the play, right? He gets it. He'll ping a cross in, and it's on the guy's head. It's on the guy's every time, consistently in the attacking third. He's putting it where it needs to be. He's everything in their attack. And then I mentioned Anders Kubas, not a danger man in the attacking side, but you saw the difference when he was away with Paraguay and they didn't have him the week before. Like all of a sudden, Chicho Arango had space in the middle of the park. Like whoever it is on the other team just has space. There's space. They're able to get the ball in the middle of the park, turn and ping a little diagonal. He's on the field. None of that happens. Like everything gets snuffed out in the middle of the field.
Perfect. And that sort of led me into another question, in terms of defensively. It seems like Vancouver has really sort of improved from an offensive perspective. And obviously Ryan Gould's a big part of that. Brian White's a big part of that. But defensively, how has this team looked sort of through the first couple of games this season? And how do you think, TFC might have to attack this back line in order to score a goal, which has been hard for us this year?
Well, here's the secret to beating Vancouver. No, I don't know, have the blueprint on. Yeah, exactly. Jeffrey. They're the two, the Tristan Blackman and Ranko Veselinovic, so solid, even going into last year. And then that right side D, it's like a hockey defensive pairing where you have one part of it, like in that left side, it's been pretty consistent and solid. And then they've used Javane Brown, Matthias Laborda to start the season. And then Matthias Laborda had a rough go in the last game against Portland, ended up getting subbed out in the second half where it just felt like he was fighting it. Defensively, very good. And then his distribution, he was just missing passes for whatever reason. So there's still that sort of that right side of that back three that is, I guess, a bit of a question mark for Vanni Sartini going forward. They like the skill set, the ability of Matthias Laborda, Javane Brown as well. But Bjorn Inge can slot in there as well. He looked pretty solid when he came in for Laborda in that last game. But the key to their defensive setup is always Anders Kubas, because anything through the middle, he's able to pick out. And sometimes he went so high up the park that they're able to transition and then get into a quick counter as well. So he'll stop it before the attack even starts.
Perfect.
Sounds important. Has he met Davy Flores yet? Because
those two clashing in the midfield.
That's just it. Yeah,
hard.
The universe might explode. Yeah.
The other one that I'm excited to see is one that you guys probably are familiar with, but Ralph Priso. Just seeing him at training, seeing his kind of body language, his ability, where they see him fitting in. He's a fun young one, and he's still young. Like that's the crazy thing. He's got to bounce around, and he's 21 years old. Like. Still really young. Yeah. Good.
A lot of MLS experience
potential
now under his belt. That will be interesting if he does see the pitch. Obviously against his club that he came through the academy with. I'm just taking a look here. Jeff had put some stats up here. Vancouver,
I always love doing this.
In all-time, Toronto has the lead. This includes all games. It includes V's Cup.
We're going to like the 50-year history, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
This is where
over 50 years. That Blizzard 86ers game.
Yeah, crazy time. But in MLS, just in MLS play alone, there's literally barely anything to separate the teams. Like Vancouver has 7 wins. We have 6. We have the same amount of draws in 3. And obviously Vancouver's just lost one less game than Toronto.
Less than Toronto.
And the goals are almost identical. I think we've scored 2 more goals. So these games tend to be fairly tight. between Toronto and Vancouver. This sort of goes to my next question, just in regards to the perception of Toronto FC in Vancouver. Obviously, we know what Toronto's perception outside of Toronto is, but specifically Toronto FC amongst the Vancouver Whitecaps, both fans and maybe within the club, its perception of the club now, not necessarily
as opposed to
the world-beating team of 2017, but the team of right now. What do you think that perception is of the Reds?
That's an interesting one. I think that there was, and I'm less with the fans, but more from the like Vanni Sartini club perspective. I think that they see a very different approach to the way they run things, like with the Insigne Bernardeschi approach, and then the Whitecaps are very much like Vanni's always about like team. We're not going to get a big name because the big name is the Whitecaps. Is kind of how they feel. So there's like, I do think the club feels strongly about like, we want to do it this way, they do it that way, and that's how it is. So I think that
up in their faces. So let's
yeah.
I mean,
it really sucks.
Hey, we're on the same amount of points, just remember.
Yeah,
but well, I mean,
I think that
in a roundabout way,
as far as the fans go, like it's tough to say, just because unfortunately, I guess we've got some Canadian Championship bad blood a little bit as well. So there are some of those matches that come into play. I think generally it's just a general Toronto hate. Leafs, TFC, all of that. The interesting thing too is that I know you didn't want to talk about the history a lot, but there have been players that kind of bounce back and forth. Like there's that too, which makes it interesting, right? You're Eric Hasley, Terry Dunfield, who's still there. Terry's, like there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
You scooped me because the top fixture goal scorers, I mean, obviously Josie scored 7 on you guys and they were all, but Eric is right there with 4. Next up, he's the top scorer, and he had a cup of coffee at TFC if memory serves. Kai Camara's in there. We still haven't had our shot at Kai.
Hey, you mentioned Tosaint Ricketts earlier, like right off the top.
If Richie was healthy, Richie would be probably playing in this game, right? Like there's a lot. There has been a lot of cross pollination between two clubs.
And then with the Whitecaps right now, this is another one. Chatted with Ali about. I was just saying to him how there's a lot of like. The Canadian players for the Whitecaps are from Ontario. They're from the GTA.
Yes.
Like they're not Vancouver kids. So I think that's interesting as well.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because obviously we talked about Ryan Raposo earlier. And he scored the winner. Like this is a player that was briefly with TFC in the academy. Had a cup of tea with them and was let go. And he talked about that when he first got drafted by Vancouver, just like the sort of that rejected feeling, right, of your hometown club, or he's from Hamilton, so not necessarily hometown, but like the club that you thought you were going to break in as a professional with sort of rejecting you, and having the opportunity to come back and play against them and show them what they're missing. And I think there is a bit of that from time to time amongst the Canadian players at Vancouver, and it's gonna be an interesting one on Saturday, because you look at TFC. Yes, 10 points out of 6 games. That's a good start considering where most people, including Jeff and I, had them finish.
Dreamland
is Dreamland start, but there's 2 losses out of the last 3, right? And it's no Insigne for a while. Like we said, no Lorea. Sean Johnson might be back this weekend. But the issue right now is scoring goals, right? That is the biggest issue at TFC right now is finding a way to score goals. And that's kind of why I asked that question around defending, because, it feels like this is going to be another sort of, for TFC fans, another slog trying to find a way to break down a team that seems pretty organized defensively.
Yeah. And obviously the Insigne thing like that really impacts the club. Like how much has that impacted or changed the way they play? You guys, know better than I from what you've seen.
It does. I mean, we saw it on Saturday, right? The chance creation was there a little bit in the first half, but you really saw it come tail off in the second half. Like there just wasn't anything really to challenge Sporting Kansas City, and they were able to sort of hit off. And granted, there were some bad turnovers as well, but the team struggles to score goals, and when they create chances, they have a hard time finishing them. And there's some really good chances, right? So again, this will be an interesting one to see how this all sort of plays out. And obviously on the back of probably TFC's mind, and probably even the back of Vancouver's mind, is a possible meetup in the Canadian Championship as well, as we're sort of progressing.
It's a spicy rivalry right now. I think it's pretty good.
It is. I think there's that little bit of Vancouver's got one on us right now. Obviously winning the cup in 22. Obviously winning again last year. That's something TFC want, right? They want to get that cup back to get back to Champions League.
I honestly think that it was
Cup.
up to the Whitecaps to make the rivalry a thing. Like, just
in
Toronto,
what way?
bigger city. Toronto has had the success, right? The recent success.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
The Whitecaps have not had much success in MLS, and then the Canadian Championships were a struggle for a while. But once they started getting that, and then a little bit of league success, and then Toronto struggling as of late, you're like, oh, okay, now it's kind of come around. Now it's a bit of a rivalry, but. Yeah, the Toronto people always text me and remind me of MLS Cup success. So it is what it is.
Hey,
we'll live off that.
We'll live off that cup for a long time.
Let's press that rivalry. Craft beer. I know you're an aficionado. Who wins? Vancouver, Toronto right now?
It's got to be Vancouver.
Ooh.
It is Vancouver. Okay, I appreciate the Vancouver craft beer setup a lot more. Just the growler fill. Culture, because I brought
the Pacific Northwest culture as opposed to the cash and carry cans.
Yes, exactly. No, that's exactly it. Is because I brought my collection of like 8 growlers to Toronto when I lived there, and realized I couldn't do anything with them, so they just hung out in the garage. And then I think I just gave them away at the end of it.
That's a good shout, actually. I'm not going to challenge.
But that was my favorite part about basically. Or that is my favorite part about like just the craft beer in general. It's taking your growler, going having a few sips. Ooh, this one tastes all right. Fill up the growler for a reasonable price, and then walk out of there and walk home. And it's a good time. It's that experience, I think, that has Vancouver above Toronto. But there are some great
above Toronto
breweries. Like I love Left Field. I don't know if you guys have any sponsorships with anyone in particular there, so
no.
If they're listening, though.
Left Field is good.
If they're listening, Left Field's great.
Exactly.
Absolutely,
Left Field is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I used to live by
my second dumb question is, why Kylo Ren? Does that mean you think Last Jedi is a good movie? Because I don't know if we have enough time for me to correct you.
Yeah, so you're talking about my pup, my cockapoo, who's 9 months old now, and we had a list of names. And it had, so we had Grogu and Yoda and then
I think you
Rex
like Star Wars. Just gonna put that
out. Yeah, a lot of these other ones, and Kylo, and he is a black cockapoo, and he's a little feisty and
kind of emo. Yeah, okay, I feel it. There we go. Yeah, all right.
And that's
all right. There we go.
And that's why I went with Kylo. And now when I was, I was like, it fits. I couldn't picture anything else. He is Kylo.
So when he wants doggy treats, do you do more? Yeah, is that
that's great?
Because I mean, I would just be quoting Star Wars more than I do already, and I would probably be single again. My wife I quoted Star Wars more than I do already. So yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, look, Asa, thank you so much for taking the time today to be on Who Are You and give us some perspective on the Whitecaps.
Attack the right. That's my note.
There it is.
After the right. Yeah. I'm calling John right after we get off here.
I got it. I got the stuff.
I got it. Got the scuttlebutt. Let's go, boys.
That's great.
You can find Asa on Global TV Vancouver at Sport Anchor, AM 730 Traffic, doing play-by-play for the Whitecaps. Where else can the good people find you, Asa?
On the X, formerly Twitter, at Asa Rehman. I see you guys' Twitter handle, so still on there. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then Instagram, I guess.
You don't want to plug Blue Sky or Threads or any of the other Twitter adjuncts? You're there?
I have a family.
Friendster, can we find you on Friendster?
I have a life, man. I have a life.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Find you
Again,
on Friendster.
Asa, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. For those who follow us, we're on Instagram. Follow us. Find us at TTID Show or search Toronto Till I Die. Find us on all the podcatchers. Just search Toronto Till I Die and you'll find us there as well. For Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Mike Newell. Cheers. We'll see you next week.
Who are ya?
It's the Toronto Till I Die pre-recorded match preview.